Hello, buddy. All right. Welcome to the Mikestand. Today, of course, is Wednesday, um, Wednesday, October 15th, 2025. So that means hump day, of course. We're going to give people a few minutes to come in before we get started. Friendly reminder to everybody, of course, if you guys haven't already, if you guys can help out by liking and sharing the stream, see if we can get some more friendly people to engage, that'd be appreciated. Also, if anything here grabs your attention, feel free to comment and or ask questions, and I will try to answer the questions to the best of my ability. So, anyways, finished off cartoons that were produced in October 1941 today, including, of course, the limited release of Chef Donald, which he was trying to do a radio cooking program, make waffles, but ended up intermixing rubber cement into the batter instead of baking powder. So, let's see. So, of course, Danny gives them sourpuss and slap happy hunters, which their prey decided to kind of resist, as it were, among other things. So, anyways, let's see. It's what, 2:07 right now? As I said, we're just waiting for people to. Let me try something because there's something I noticed earlier in terms of it's. That's background music. So I guess. So yes, I guess StreamYard. Hello, hey Metal. I was just kind of goofing with because apparently StreamYard now has some sounds aside from background music, so that's pretty interesting. Um, so I guess now that we do have at least another person here, let's talk a little bit about what's on tap for tonight. So so I've got I got one article I'm going to go over from Bleeding Fool. Another Avi article in which he now is talking about how Tom Brevoort should probably, let's see, Tom Brevoort should step away from the X-Men comics line. So we'll be looking at that, of course, as well as um, of course, as um, looking back at the wrestling wrap up, looking back to last night's NXT, kind of the fallout from Bound for Glory pay per view from TNA, as well as looking ahead to tonight's AW Dynamite. I believe Dynamite and Collision will both be airing tonight. I believe, from what I understand, these will be the go home shows before this weekend's Wrestle Dream pay per view. So we'll look also at what's going to be going down at Wrestle Dream, and then we'll of course wrap things up with this day in each history. So with that being said, now let me just check some things here. Also, I think there's some goofy stuff going on YouTube right now. Some of the videos don't seem to be playing on there as much. Don't know if it may have to do with the storms on the East Coast or what have you, but anyways, with that being said, why don't we go ahead and get started here? Well, let me let's see. I'm just hoping that it's a temporary problem, but anyways, let's get into this. And of course, a friendly reminder to both my Rumble and YouTube viewers, if you guys haven't already, you guys can help out by liking and sharing the stream. See if we can get some more friendly people to engage. That'd be appreciated. Also, if anything grabs your attention, feel free to comment and or ask questions. I'll try to answer the question to the best of my ability. With that being said, let's get going here. All right, so at least according to Avi Green here, Tom Brevoort should step away from the X-Men comics line article published earlier today. So let's see what Avi's got to say about this. So, Comic Book talks about the X-Men's latest battle with themselves, which is meaningless, and brings up a most eyebrow-raising problem with the stories one of Marvel's worst editors, Tom Brevoort. Now, of course, Avi is editorializing a little bit there with that statement, I believe. Has been helming for nearly a quarter century. 25 years. That's something. All right. The X-Men comics have jumped into an all-new alternate universe storyline, the Age of Revelation, quote unquote. This is just the latest change to the book, which started with 2024's, quote, From the Ashes, unquote, a new publishing initiative meant to bring the X-Men comics back to a more traditional X-Men status quo, something that X-Men fans really haven't gotten since the end of House of M way back in 2025. Way back in 20... We're still in 2025. Somebody's being goofy there. The X-Men line was... So I think this is from the article, obviously. X-Men line was given to Marvel bigwig editor Tom Brevoort, an editor who is known for his encyclopedic knowledge of comics and a love of the old-school Marvel universe. However, there's another thing that Brevoort loves, and it's been a part of nearly everything that he's edited in the 21st century. Heroes clashing with heroes. Quote, From the Ashes, unquote, established that the X-Men had separated, with Cyclops leading one team, Rogue leading another, and a young mutant training team led by Emma Frost and Kitty Pryde. Right off the bat, we were shown that there was a grudge between Rogue and Cyclops, as each of them thought the other was making a mistake. Quote, Raid on Graymalkin, unquote, pit the two teams against each other, and quote unquote X-Manhunt showed the differences between the teams again. However, Amazing X-Men number 1 shows that this grudge is basically meaningless, proving that the Brevoort approach to the X-Men is a mistake. So now here's Avi's response to what we just read there. And feel free, of course, to comment and or ask questions if anything grabs your attention here. And that's why Marvel's lost much of their audience over the years. When Brevoort originally began working for Marvel over 35 years ago, whatever he edited then may not have been the forced embarrassment that it is now. But anybody who's going to devote um, their time and almost entirely to devote their time almost entirely to depicting heroes clashing with themselves far more than villains has certainly brought down artistic quality very badly and made a joke out of the original premise. Even DC's had examples of heroes fighting each other in the past 2 decades, and that's dragged down the meaning of their comics horribly, too. To be sure, if this is how Braveheart's been going about producing stories for the past quarter century, it's dubious whether he really has an encyclopedic knowledge and quote unquote love of old school storytelling, especially when the stories become so meaningless. Now, I guess back to the article here. You just see here. All right. All right. So, Amazing X-Men #1 proves that Braveheart's pet idea is exactly the wrong one for the X-Men. Two X-Men teams doing different things is a fine idea. But it's when you get to making the teams fight that fans have a problem. Popularity of the X-Men has always been about the way X-Men work together despite having different methods and goals. We want to see the X-Men debate their points, fight evil as a family, and then get back to their arguments, much like we saw them do in the original um, in the first X-Men the animated series back in the 90s. Not what they're giving us now as X-Men 97, but what we saw in the first X-Men the animated series. Um, so their family. It takes a lot to make a family fight each other. When Braveheart was announced as editor of the X-Men books, fans knew it would only be a matter of time before factions of X-Men would end up fighting. However, that's against the natural state of the team. They may get mad at each other, but they love each other. They know their strengths and weaknesses, and that they're stronger together. X-Men fans don't want this sort of thing. And it looks like the creators of the books don't either. Hopefully, the plot line will end sooner rather than later. This is Avi's response to what we just read there. Just double check see if anything popping up here. All right. So, all right. Let's see. Braveheart used to be an editor of Avengers-related titles, and one could say he helmed preludes to the current situation with series like Avengers Disassembled, where it came close as the quote-unquote culprit turned out to be Scarlet Witch, when the story makes it look like somebody who's written as a reformed crook who became an admirable heroine is far more the problem than even villains like Thanos. Something is definitely wrong. There was nothing respectful of quote unquote tradition back then, and no chance the X-Men will ever see a convincing return to it now either. What with the way Marvel is micromanaged these days, interesting the news site acknowledges the fan base. But it's important to note many have stopped reading Marvel as a result of these humiliating bad storylines. All right, so there we go with that one. So that one kind of went pretty quick there, a little quicker than I thought it would. But anyways, I do need to step away from the computer for a moment, so I'll be right back. But I will put some music on while I'm gone. All right, I'm back. So, anyways, of course, a friendly reminder to everybody, if you guys haven't already, if you guys can help out by liking and sharing the stream, see if we can get some more friendly people to engage, that'd be appreciated. Also, if anything here grabs your attention, feel free to comment and or ask questions. I'm gonna go ahead. So I'm gonna go ahead and take a quick peek around, see if there's any other articles maybe we can take a look at here. That will be quickies. Let's see, 8 because we only got up to about the 15-minute mark right there. So let me just see what else there may be. Que sera, sera, whatever will be, will be. And again, and if there's anything that you guys want to ask me about in the realm of course, anime, cartoons, comics, manga, pro wrestling, you know, feel free to feel free to comment and or ask the question. I'll try to answer the questions the best of my ability there. So. All right. Well, looks like there is a story that I wasn't sure if I was going to do this one or not because I think they did this last year, but as there doesn't seem to be much else going on right now. I know that MeTV Tunes, because I think I kind of went over it last year as well. MeTV Tunes did a story talking about the times that Shaggy had started wearing, instead of wearing the green shirt that he was always known for wearing, he would wear a red shirt. And I think that caused some controversy there. It looks like they've decided to redo that article this year, and I don't know if that's because a lot of the classic Halloween specials, particularly from the late '80s, there like Scooby Doo and the Boo Brothers, Scooby Doo, and the Ghoul School, all those had him wearing a red shirt as opposed to a green shirt. So it looks like, though, as I said, MeTV Tunes has actually um, put that up. So I think we'll take another look at that article. Maybe they've added some new information there, but I guess we'll wait and see. This could also be just a part of their whole spectacular Sundays and Halloween specials for the month here too, as we are in October. Um, I'm going to go over this article. I believe it might be one that we had kind of hit upon before. Red shirt, more like red flag. So let's see what this is. See what we got here. Exploring the fan theories behind Red Shirt Shaggy, quote unquote. Red shirt, more like red flag. Published earlier today by MeTV and staff. All right, so let's see where this article will take us. I'm just looking around, and of course, to both my Rumble and my YouTube viewers, if you guys, if anything grabs your attention, feel free to comment and or ask questions. I'll try to answer the questions to the best of my ability. And if you haven't yet, it would be very appreciated if you guys can help get the word out by liking and sharing the stream. So, anyways, with that being said, when you think of Shaggy Rogers, the loved sidekick of Scooby Doo, what do you think of? Gigantic sandwiches? Scooby snacks? Perhaps a green t shirt? For nearly 16 years, Shaggy consistently wore a green t shirt in every episode and special. But then everything changed when the 13 Ghosts of Scooby Doo premiered in 1985. Suddenly, Shaggy was now wearing a bright red T-shirt. Shaggy would wear that shirt for the rest of the series and for 3 Scooby Doo feature specials in a row: Scooby Doo and the Boo Brothers, Scooby Doo and the Ghoul School, which was just on the other day, by the way, Sunday, and Scooby Doo and the Reluctant Werewolf. Then in 1988, another Scooby Doo series premiered, A Pup Named Scooby Doo. This new series takes place during Shaggy's childhood, so now he was back to a green shirt. But a change had been made, and Shaggy was back to green shirts until 2001's Scooby-Doo and the Cyber Chase, where Mystery Inc. meets the video game versions of themselves, including a Shaggy who was wearing a red shirt. All right, fans were left with more questions than answers. Why did the studio or the animators or whoever make Shaggy wear only red shirts from 1985 to 1988 and then again in 2001? Why make the change at all? Were they trying to signal something to us? in Smallwood, red shirt Shaggy became a phrase among fans desperate to understand why a generally consistent character was suddenly different. The studio and creators of Scooby Doo were never have never directly addressed red shirt Shaggy, so fans naturally went wild with theories and explanations. Let's jump in to some of the fan theories behind Shaggy's red shirt. Number one, red shirt means the monsters are real. That could be. Let's see what they're reasoning. And an official theory, but a fun one, is that when you see Shaggy in a red shirt, the culprit of the investigation is not some crook in a mask, but rather a real monster or a ghost. While this theory holds up for the episodes and specials where Red Shaggy encountered real monsters, but there are a few other times, specifically in Scooby Doo and Scrappy Doo, where Shaggy encounters a real ghost or monster in his green shirt, which is true. Now, I think though during the run that they're talking about here, from '85 to '88, many of the adversaries, many of the, as they point out here, many of the adversaries that Shaggy and Scooby were facing were actually real legit monsters. They weren't people in disguises, in monstrous disguises. And the 13 Ghosts of Scooby Doo, of course, you had more of an occultic feeling. You had, of course, the late great Vincent Price providing the voice of Vincent Van Gogh. Um, and then you had in the specials they mentioned the Boo Brothers coming to try to deal with real ghosts, along with, of course, Scooby and the Ghoul School, where they weren't girls going to that boarding school; they were ghouls, as Shaggy would put it. And then, of course, Scooby Doo and the Reluctant Werewolf. Dracula trying to make Shaggy a permanent werewolf as a replacement for werewolf in the Transylvania 500. So, there might be some, but as they point out too, he's had some, particularly in the, the Scooby Doo and Scrappy Doo shows. He'd had some encounters with real monsters as well as the villain who would dress up in a villainous, monstrous disguise to try to throw people off. Red Shirt Shaggy is stuck in a time loop. Hold on to your hats because this one is weird. Some fans believe that in Scooby Doo and the Reluctant Werewolf, where Shaggy is turned into a werewolf by Count Dracula, as Shaggy turns back into human, he gets stuck in a time vortex, which is how he ends up as a video game alternate reality Shaggy and Scooby Doo and the Cyber. Yeah, that one I would say is a bit of a stretch. Now, if Metal is still here, Metal I know probably knows more about video games and all that than I would. But even I know that there are many games that when they're set up, they also have alt character modes, where you can dress them up in different styles. So in a Scooby Doo and Cyber Chase type video game, you can actually have you could actually have a green shirt Shaggy and a red shirt Shaggy in the same game too, if that's what a player wanted to do. And I know that, of course, just other characters too probably had some slight like obviously they'd have obviously alternate winter wear, right? Um, as well. So that's something to take into consideration. Let's see now as I try to. All right, so number 3, the studio ran out of green and had to use red instead. Some fans have theorized that the studio ran out of green paint or that green paint was more expensive than red. The theory doesn't hold up because in all of the Red Shirt Shaggy episodes and features, there is green everywhere. Green grass, green swamps, green ghouls, but no green for Shaggy. Seems unlike, yeah, I mean, that logically, that doesn't really make much sense. I mean, run out of green, you decide to change a character's shirt because you ran out of green paint. That's bit of a stretch to say the least. 4, color blindness. Okay. Another fan theory is that Shaggy may have red green color blindness, so to Shaggy, both the green and the red shirt look the same. Who is with Shaggy the most when he wears these shirts? Scooby and Scrappy, who are dogs and also cannot see red and green very well. This theory is so close to working, but Daphne is also with Shaggy in the 13 Ghosts of Scooby-Doo. It's hard to imagine Daphne, the fashionista of Mystery Inc., not mentioning Shaggy's new look. Of course, what you have to also remember too is that Scooby-Doo was a kids' cartoon, and so kids are not going to be like. I don't think kids are going to take. They might take a quick note like, oh, he's wearing something different. If it shows those, thanks for popping in there. Actually, let me do something. Let me go to the Facebook, or not Facebook, but let me do this real quick. All right, so yeah, I think I noticed that earlier too, Fitzshozo. I noticed that earlier as well, but I'm hoping that maybe it's finally fixed here. I have to go back and check. It could be maybe because of some of the weather issues on the East Coast, possibly fouling things up, but I'm not completely sure. But as you noted and as I noted earlier too, yeah, it was kind of acting up a bit. So, anyways, getting back to the article here. And oh yeah, and Metal, if you're still here, Vomitorium, if you're still here, I made your Vomitorium handle a mod now. So now you have two. You're now a mod as the Metal, and you're a mod as the Vomitorium. So just giving you a heads up on that. All right, number 5. They just wanted to update Shaggy's look. This reasoning is the most realistic and most boring explanation. The Scooby-Doo gang had been on TV for 16 years, so from 1969 to 1985, and needed to look more modern and relevant to an 80s audience. In the 13 Ghosts of Scooby-Doo, Shaggy's look changes, but so does Daphne's. Daphne's outfit and hair change into a more Charlie's Angels style. A refreshed look for the 1980s is the most logical conclusion for Red Shirt Shaggy. And then we got Green Shirt Shaggy back as a step back in time to puppet named Scooby-Doo. The truth is, we will never really know why Shaggy was given a red shirt for 3 years, but what we do know is that it confused us all. Watch MeTV Tunes Spectacular Sundays on MeTV Tunes. Sundays starting at 3 p.m. Eastern to Central, 12 noon Pacific. Alrighty then, so there we go with that. There we go with that. So now we are, of course, done with the news articles for tonight, as it were. What we're going to do now is we're going to get right into the wrestling wrap-up. Look back to last night's NXT. Look ahead to tonight's AEW Dynamite and Collision, as I believe both shows will be on tonight, due in part to the fact that this Saturday AEW will be doing the Wrestle Dream pay-per-view. And with that being said, of course, we'll also look at the card for that as well. So let's go ahead and first off take a quick peek at last night's NXT. See what all went down there. So last night's NXT came from the WWE Performance Center in Orlando, Florida, airing on the CW. It was so the opening match of the evening saw in his return to a WWE ring in about 6 years, Matt Cardona coming up short to NXT star Josh Briggs in 7 minutes 53 seconds. Then in the next match, El Hijo AAA star El Hijo de Dr. Wagner Jr. defeating former Heritage Cup champion Lexus King. Blake Monroe defeated Zarya in just shy of 6.5 minutes. In a triple threat tag team match between Chase Hughes, Uriah Connors, and Cale Dixon, Hank and Tank of Tank Ledger and Hank Walker, and the Collings, Sean Spears, and Nico Vance went to a no contest. And in a number one contendership battle royal to see who would be the next challenger to JC Jane's NXT Women's title, Tatum Paxley outlasted a combination of NXT and TNA talent, including, of course, from the NXT side of it, including Ariana Grace, Jordan Grace, Illy Dane, Jada Parker, Callie Armstrong, Carmen Petrovich, Kalani Jordan, of course, the current TNA Knockout World Champion, Kendall Gray, Lash Legend, Lola Vice, Thea Hale, Ren Sinclair, and Zarya. While the NXT talent that participated in the event included current TNA Knockouts Tag Team Champions Cassie Lee and Jesse McKay, the Inspiration, former Knockouts Tag Team Champion Heather by Elegance. Let's see. The Angel Warriors of Zaya Brookside and Lei Ying Lee, Toria Crawford, and Mara Sade, the former Shakara Jackson. So with that being said, now let's take a look. Let's go back and take a look at what's going to be going down on tonight's Dynamite. Well, I said here, I believe Dynamite and Collision will both. I know they're both being taped tonight, but we'll see. Let's see something here. Yeah, it would appear Collision is also going to be airing tonight as well. So on tonight's Dynamite, matches that were scheduled for tonight, coming from of course, the the Cable Dahmer Arena in Independence, Missouri. Opening match, we'll see in a tag team match the GOA, or the Gates of Agony of Bishop Khan and Toa Leona, taking on the former AEW World Tag Team Champions, the Hurt Syndicate of Shelton Benjamin and Bobby Lashley. Megan Bayne is set to take on Harley Cameron in women's singles action. Jamie Hayter takes on one half of the Sisters of Sin and 1/3 of the Triangle of Madness and Sky Blue. Conglomeration duo of Orange Cassidy and Kyle O'Reilly are set to take on the Death Riders duo of Daniel Garcia and Wheeler Yuta, two former rivals that are now teaming up as part of Death Riders. These two had a big feud about 2 or 3 years ago over the Ring of Honor Pure title. Roderick Strong of the Conglomeration and Paragon is set to take on Claudio Castagnoli of the Death Riders in singles action. In six-man tag action, Kenny Omega teams with former AEW World Tag Team Champions of Jurassic Express of Jack Perry and Luchasaurus to take on the Don Callis family members of Josh Alexander, the returning Mark Davis from injury, and Hechicero. And in the main event, we'll see in a match for the AEW World Trios titles, the ops of Powerhouse Hobbs, Samoa Joe, and Katsuyori Shibata will be taking on the team of La Facción Ingobernables of Jalisco, Rush, and the Beast Mortos. Rush is already, of course, one half of the Ring of Honor World Tag Team Champions as well. And as I said, Collision will also be airing tonight as well, albeit no matches have been announced for that particular show yet. Now, looking ahead to this weekend's Wrestle Dream event, so they'll have another special edition. They'll have a special edition of Collision on that night as well. A Saturday Tailgate Brawl, serving as the pre-show to the actual event itself in Chavez Arena in St. Louis, Missouri. A couple of tag team matches are set for Saturday's Saturday Tailgate Brawl Wrestle Dream. Opening match, we'll see in a women's tag team match. The team calling themselves Top God now, Megan Bayne and Penelope Ford, taking on the team of Harley Cameron and Willow Nightingale. In the other tag team match, three-time AEW World Tag Team Champions FTR of Dax Harwood, Cash Wheeler with Stokely in their corner will be taking on the team of Jet Speed of Speedball Mike Bailey and the Jet Kevin Knight. And that will be on TNT as a pre-show to the pay-per-view itself. On that pay-per-view, on the Wrestle Dream pay-per-view itself. Here are the matches that are thus far also happening at the Chavez Arena. Jamie Hayter renews her old rivalry with Tekla, as they were rivals back in Stardom a few years ago, as they had battled over the undisputed, their version of the undisputed world women's title. In a six-man tag match, the Hurt Syndicate, Shelton Benjamin, Bobby Lashley, and MVP, be taking on the Demand of Ricochet, Bishop Khan, and Toa Leona. In a $500,000 tag team match, three-time AEW World Tag Team Champions and former VPs, the Young Bucks, Matt and Nick Jackson, will be taking on the Jurassic Express of Jack Perry and Luchasaurus in the battle of basically two former World Tag Team Champions here. In a match for the AEW World Tag Team Champions, Brodito, Ring of Honor World Heavyweight Champion Bandito, and Brody King, taking on the Don Callis family members of AEW Unified Champion Kazuchika Okada and the new IWGP the new IWGP World Heavyweight Champion Konosuke Takeshita. Then in a match for the AEW TNT title, Kyle Fletcher of the Don Callis family will be defending against Ring of Honor Hall of Famer Mark Briscoe. In an I Quit match, Jon Moxley looks to literally bury the master of the coffin drop, Darby Allin, once and for all by making him say I quit. Darby Allin looks to get some revenge on Moxley for his antics, trying to get him to. In a match for the AEW Women's World Title, Chris Statlander gives Toni Storm her contractual rematch in a match between two women who have said they respect each other, but they still want the title. And in a match for the AEW World Title, Hangman Adam Page defends against the Samoan submission machine, Samoa Joe. All right, so that's all I got for the wrestling wrap-up. Oh, one other piece of niche or of wrestling news here that's come out. So it looks like there is being reports that the injury that Seth Rollins had sustained is an actual legit injury. Now, there are a lot of fans out there. Excuse me a moment. I do need to go off camera here. I'm sorry, guys. Need to just go off camera here for a quick moment. I'll be right back. All right, I'm back. So with that being said, yeah, so there are some fans who are in doubt because earlier this year he feigned a ankle injury to kind of surprise Cody, to surprise CM Punk to be able to, or Jey Uso rather, to basically cash in his Money in the Bank contract. So stay tuned for that. Seth Rollins, though, is apparently being taken off the shows for the immediate future. That's why they pivoted and basically had the Vision basically turn on him. And there's some talk that he might have to vacate the World Heavyweight Championship as well. So, anyways, with that, now we're going to move on to this day in each history. Today is, of course, Wednesday, October 15th, 2020. So let's go ahead and take look back at this day in niche history. Histories of 2014, 2000, 2010, and 1975. All right, so first I'm going to head back 50 years ago today. And on this date, 50 years ago today, back in 1975, Toei Animations EQ-san premiered on Japanese television on this date back in the year 1975. So EQ-san is a Japanese historical comedy anime series produced by Toei Animation based on the recorded early life of Zen Buddhist monk EQ. During his stay at Ankoku-ji Temple. Now, Ikkyu was also a character in Gokudo, I believe. So this sounds like a very interesting. Ikkyu-san anime was directed by Kimio Yabuki and written by Makoto Tsuji, Tadaki Yamazaki, Hisao Okawa, a whole bunch of people. Aired on TV Arashi from October 15th, 1975 to June 28th, 1982. Series was received by all ages in Japan and throughout Asia, as it is mostly non-violent. Even when violence appears, it is usually presented in a mild or necessary way. For example, there are occasional references to the Onin War. In 1976, there was also a theatrical film as part of the Toei Manga Matsui Film Festival in the summer of that year. A film retelling of the Mischievous Princess film was released in 2014. All right, so there we go with that. So that back in 1975, Toei Animation's Ikkyu-san premiered on Japanese television. So there we go with that. Moving on to the next piece of niche history. As we head back 25 years ago today, to the year 2000, as we look to day two. We looked at day one yesterday, so now we're looking at day two of the NWA's 52nd anniversary show that happened on this date 25 years ago today. As on that show included in the main event, Jason Rumble would defeat Bo Douglas, the NWA New England heavyweight title. The team of Double Jeopardy of Jimmy Angel and Paul Atlas would defeat Big Papa Gator and Brandon Kay to become the new NWA East tag team titles. Now, mind you, the NWA was really working their territorial system at this point, the independent system. That's why you have all the Maniacal Crew of Brother Love and Joey Venture would defeat the new Texas Outlaws of Austin Rhodes and Ricky Murdoch. Basically, the idea of the new Texas Outlaws being kind of a modern day version of the original Texas Outlaws of Dusty Rhodes and Dick Murdoch, to become the new NWA Southern Tag Team Champions at the time. In a hardcore match, Mr. Mayhem defeated Necro Butcher. Necro Butcher, a star in the Northeast Independents. In a match for the NWA Great Lakes Junior Heavyweight title, Nate Matson defeated Rico Rodriguez to become the new champion. Magic retained the NWA New York heavyweight title in a four-way match, defeating Biggie Biggs, Eric Creed, and Lord Zeeg. Let's see. NWA Hammerlock's Johnny Moss defeated John Ryan. And the show opened up with, for the NWA Mid-South heavyweight title, Blade Bordeaux defeating Bulldog Reigns to become the new champion. So that was the night two or day two of the 52nd anniversary show for the NWA on this date back in the year 2000. Now moving on to the year 2010. Let me see. Let me just double check to make sure of all that. Yeah, 2010. All right, so 15 years ago today, as soon as I clear all this out, 15 years ago today, in the year 2010, premiering on the Hub, Nelvana and Hasbro Studios' The Adventures of Chuck and Friends premiered on the Hub on this date back in the year 2010, 15 years ago. Let's see, is an animated television series based on Tonka's Chuck and Friends storyline. The series was produced by Hasbro Studios with animation production started by Nelvana. The series ran on the Hub's defunct Hubbub block. with repeats that aired Saturday mornings on the CW as part of the Vortex block. Series is mostly about anthropomorphic, uh, multiple types of trucks and even construction vehicles. All right, so that was 15 years ago, the premiere of Chuck and Friends from. Never heard of it? Mm-hmm. All right, well, with that being said, now we have one more piece of niche history to go over, which is from 11 years ago today, in the year 2014. On this date in the year 2014, as soon as I find that. On this date in the year 2014, the 530th issue of Mad magazine from EC Comics went on sale on this date back in 2014. Sold for $5.99 and was 56 pages. All right. So with that being said, I thank everybody for being here. I hope everybody enjoyed the show. I know I guess we did have, there was some technical issues with YouTube earlier, from what I understand. I was noticing it too um, early on, but hopefully, since I do keep the shows up more or less, you can always go back and catch what you missed. We'll be back here, of course, with more niche news tomorrow. Also, don't forget this Sunday I'll be joined by the Metal from the Vomitorium, as we will be looking at comic. We'll be finishing up our coverage of June of comics went on sale in June of 1940. So with that, I thank everybody for being here, and I hope to see everybody back here tomorrow. Bye.